Shalom everyone and Chodesh Tov, the new month of Sivan, Gemini, just started. And we are into this parasha, amazing parasha, Parashat Naso. By verses, words, this is the longest parasha in the whole Torah. It has also a lot of topics. I'll try to refer to the topics that are really important for our days. Although I spoke about that topic for many times, uh, since reality is very intense worldwide, and it is very important to simply face the idea that humanity right now is going through a huge um, transformation that is in many, many times for many, many people. It is uh, terribly confusing, painful, scary, because the world order, the way we knew it, is falling apart by the hour or by the minute. Just every few minutes, a new item comes on the news that is like, it's like, no way, this is impossible. And things are getting so bizarre, so out of the line that we got used to. Spoke about it a lot, but you cannot ignore it. And the Zohar has a lot to talk about these days. Now, Parashat Naso is aligned always with Shavuot, Mount Sinai revelation, which will be at the end of the week. Uh, Therefore, in Parashat Naso in the Zohar, you have the Idra Rabbah, which is called basically the Great Assembly. Rabbi Shimon was in a cave for 13 years. When he came out, he gathered 8 more people in addition to him and his son, and they got together to study the Zohar in the language of the Zohar, first time ever in the opening. And the protocols are called the Idra Rabbah Kadisha, and you can find them in the Parashat Naso, which is this parasha. And why is it connected? Was that on this parasha? We don't know. It doesn't mention. However, it is mentioned that the revelation of the Idra Rabbah, which means the main first text, first body of the Zohar, is like Mount Sinai revelation. It was a cosmic event revealing in public 10 men, the first time in history, those secrets that were given on Mount Sinai. However, they were never written. They were never understood on that level that Rabbi Shimon explained them. So this is very important because it is always aligned with Mount Sinai revelation. And we know that, yes, the Torah is a very important text, the most important text, 5 books of Moses. However, the Zohar is teaching us that without understanding the key words, the code of the Torah, it can become a dry, legal, religious, historical document. And when it becomes such a document dry, it's danger. It is in danger. People doubt it. It is endangering because if you take the words of the Torah as they're written without the understanding that the Zohar is giving, it can bring into dangerous interpretations. It happened in Judaism. It happened with all the religions that followed basically Judaism, and their basic creed is founded upon Mount Sinai revelation. So without the Zohar understanding, we're in danger of creating a religion that was not given in Mount Sinai, although it will claim it was given on Mount Sinai. But let's understand the idea from the name of the parasha, Naso. The word appeared already in the beginning of Parashat Bamidbar. I spoke about it last week. Naso means raise. Naso et rosh, raise the head of. And here it speaks about the heads of the clan of Gershon, one of the clans of the Levites. But I explained last week that there's something really important about the idea of Naso et Rosh, and that could be the major foundation of the Torah. Just a second, didn't we say the major foundation is love others as you love yourself? Yes, Naso et Rosh is basically very intrinsic part of the idea of love others as thyself. It's more like a practical idea. What does it mean, Naso et Rosh? You can imagine that you love somebody else. You can imagine that you know what's better for them. Okay? The fact is that it happened to all of us that we thought we knew was good for somebody else. However, they kind of refused uh, our generosity because they didn't think that that's what they want. So when it says love others as you love yourself, means also that same way that you don't want to be forced to be happy by people who really care for you, don't try to do it for others, which means force them to believe in something, force them to take a path, force them to hold certain opinions. No, but it's good for you, it's you for your own sake. Doesn't work this way. And Naso et Rosh, that is exactly what it means when you really want to have unity, and we started that in Parashat Bamidbar. You want to have unity, you need that idea of Naso et Rosh, raise the head. If you want to have people joining you, you have to make them feel that you support them, appreciate them, you hold them high, and you hold them accountable. More than that, that you bring them into account. The idea was developed last week, which means for the idea of Mount Sinai revelation to take place, there was a condition, the condition, you can read it in Parashat Yitro, in the book of Exodus, before Mount Sinai revelation. It states really clearly that when the children of Israel arrive to Mount Sinai, it says that they arrive to the mount, and then it says, and he camped in front of the mount, which means the nation of Israel camped in single, not in plural. In English, it doesn't rhyme. I'm sorry. English was not made for that for a purpose. But in Hebrew, vayachanu, this is in plural. Vayichan, that's in single. And over there it says Vayichan Israel keneged ha'ar. And Israel camped Vayichan in single in front of the mount. How do you get a group of people to be keish echad belev echad, as one person, one heart, as Rashi adds about what does it mean, Vayichan in single. Keish echad is one man, one person, belev echad, one heart. To make that happen, many nations tried, not just nations, empires, groups, tried to create the secret of unity. When you push the idea of unity, there are many ways to do it. One way, for instance, is uniting everybody by hating the same imaginary enemy or even visible enemy. It helps, it works politically. It doesn't last and long enough to become a real lasting power. You can force people by a lot of propaganda that whoever is not united with the main theme of the leadership, the traders, whatever, that does not hold either. That's why when you have in the last, let's say, century, democracies fighting dictatorships, democracies usually win. Why is it that democracies win? Because in democracies, everybody feels that he is taken into account, which means you have ownership, you have partnership, and that's what Naso Etosh means. When everybody is taking into account, everybody feels that that kind of ownership. Nobody says it is mine and you guys have to follow. Dictatorships, cults, they work this way. Their success uh, is not that guaranteed, not for long. Sooner or later, we have to remember Genesis chapter 1, when it says that Adam was created in the image of God. And when we are created in the image of God, it means we have that idea of a creator independence within us. So the moment we are being told that they are better and you have to appreciate the idea that they allowed you to join the collective. It can work for a short time. The creativity in societies like this is suppressed. Why? Because the feeling of creativity of every person, Naso et Rosh, raise the head, everybody is taken into account. This is important. You want unity in your company, in your community, in your nation, in your society, whatever society it means. You have to give each person the idea that they have been taken into account and they are important, and it cannot be just words. It has to be actions. So that is very important since we are talking about Mount Sinai revelation on this parasha, and the word is Naso Etosh. The name of the parasha is raise the head. You want Mount Sinai revelation, you want unity, and you want unity in a way that will create epiphany, revelation, superpowers of revelation. You need for every person to be acknowledged that he is a divine creature, a divine soul, and therefore, since every soul is chelek Eloka mimal, is a divine part of the above, which means every human soul is a part of God. So Rabbi Ashlag is asking, so what's the difference between a human being soul and God? The difference is that God is the whole, a soul is part of the whole. How can we explain that? So Rabbi Ashlag says, let's take a mountain that is a huge rock, okay, and a stone. What's the difference between the mountain and the stone that was carved out of the mountain? That the stone is a part and the mountain is the whole. God is the whole. Each one of us is a part. Still, a significant part. When we can create a society in which the idea is following that narrative, you can create the most successful society. And that means diversity, because no two people are alike. That means, on one hand, diversity, but it's a unity that is coming out of diversity and also out of self-responsibility, which means because we are diverse, because each one of us is different, therefore, if I don't do my task, that will be missing from the whole, and that can basically fail the whole project. Whoever learns about the rule that when you have a great project being handled, the speed of its completion depends over the slowest parts of the project, the bottleneck. Now, you don't want to become a bottleneck because you are part of a greater whole. And that means that the greater whole depends on you and you and you and me. So basically, humanity, since Mount Sinai revelation, is moving slowly towards that idea. Mount Sinai revelation made that huge revolution, saying there is one God, infinite God, and He's everybody's God equally. He is the God of the tall ones and the short one. He is the God of the ones with the red hair, or the ones with the brown hair, or the ones with the curly hair. He is the God of the slow ones and the fast ones. He is the God of the fat ones and the skinny ones. He's everybody's God the same, and no one can claim for more ownership over God. That's an amazing idea. And because he's everybody's God, also no one is above the law, which means that idea that no one is above the law, because every human being is a human being, and that's it. And therefore, when it says do not steal, do not kill, it means to everyone, including the kings, the priests, anyone powerful. The moment someone holds himself above the law and there's inequality about applying the law, that will basically annoy every human being, although that was the way human society was run till Mount Sinai revelation. Did we become such a great society since then? Much better, much better. Are we still there? No. But Mount Sinai revelation allowed every human being to get in touch personally with the idea of equality by the law and the right for happiness. Whatever are the basic ideas of modern humanism, modern society, and the success of modern society, you can find the basic ideas of Mount Sinai revelation. So therefore, I expand the idea about Naso Etosh, which looks like it's about also the census about of the Levites, that part of it was done last week Parashah, part of it this week's Parashah, and maybe it's because Bamidbar and Naso always being read around Shavuot, the holiday of Shavuot. So this is a very important idea. And that idea is also extremely important because for the holiday of Shavuot, because if you want to understand what Shavuot is about, when we have the revelation of Mount Sinai, and we have about the revelation of the law, and the revelation of all the laws given, not as laws that have no reason, that's just testing your patience and your reasoning. No, no. When we read in Parashat Yitro, in the Zohar, that when God started to speak, Parchu nishmotehem shel Israel, the souls of the nation of Israel left their bodies. All of them, the whole nation. Now it means two things. One, what is being said also in Deuteronomy, everybody participated in the covenant, even the ones who were not incarnated in a physical body at that time, which means we all been there, which means everyone who's part or was supposed to be part or what is called the children of Israel or the nation of Israel were part of the revelation. More than that, the second issue is that everybody experienced the law not with the physical senses and the logic of the physical senses, because it says they saw the voices. You can't see the voices when you are in a physical body. You can hear the voices, but we saw the voices. And we saw that all those laws, says the Zohar, are basically the laws of cause and effect in the universe. So that reminds me, one of the my students asked me, why does the Torah have curses? And basically, when you think about it, they're not really curses. When in Parashat Bechukotai or in Parashat Kitavo, there are curses, they're not mentioned as curses. They are basically mentioned as, when you get a very powerful electric appliance or medicine, both of them are very powerful. You get also a manual. And in the manual, it says, if you do not use it by the instructions, these might be the consequences. Okay? Are these curses or warnings, or even more than that, giving you an awareness, a friendly warning of awareness to realize, handle with care, and if you're not going to follow the instructions, that's what might happen. Okay? These are not curses. These are basically instructions. So when you learn about how to deal with high voltage electric power that you have in your socket, in your household, okay? Nobody ever says that the electric company is cursing you. No, the electric company is saying, in case you're not going to follow the laws of how to use electricity, all kinds of bad things might happen. And that can cause death. That's not curses, it's a warning. So why the word klala, curse? And the word klala, the Zohar is teaching us, is coming from the word kalil, when it's from being lightheaded. When you are lightheaded about using the powers of home electricity, that is the curse, because your stupidity can cause a lot of damage to yourself, neighbors, and so on. Same thing. When we understand that Mount Sinai revelation, it was a revelation. The souls of the nation of Israel witnessed outside their bodies what are the rules of the universe. You do this, that's what happened. You do this, that's what happened. These are the consequences. Therefore, you cannot be lightheaded about following these rules if you want to feel less pain and more reward. That's very simple. If you're going to take it lightly, then the curse is not coming from the source of power. The curse is coming from the stupidity of the person that has access to that awesome power. The power of life is very potent. Therefore, using it with a light-headed state of mind, that might be dangerous. Therefore, a lot of people get hurt much more than if they were not so lightheaded about those forces. One of the reasons may be that we are using electricity, cars. It's all about realizing that using force has, it comes with warnings and responsibility and awareness and the need to know the consequences, the idea to know to respect power. Okay, so that's the first part. After that, we have a very important part. Chapter 5 in the book of Numbers, verse 5. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, and God spoke to Moses, saying, verse 6, דבר אל בני ישראל, talk to the children of Israel. איש או אישה כי יעשו מכל חטאות האדם, למעול מעל באדוני ואשמה נפשי. A man or a woman, in case they will act upon committing one of the sins of Adam, because we are basically, each one of us is part of Adam, and we betray God's laws, and we are guilty of it. How do you correct that? The moment you realize how serious is the felony. Verse 7, והתוודו את חטאותם. First of all, they should acknowledge their sin. The word is veitvadu, wrongly translated into they confess. The word is not confession. The word vadai means confirmation. You have to confirm, should be really aware of what was the mistake. Therefore, the Zohar is talking so much about how important it is to be aware of the powers, the forces that every mitzvah is activating. How important it is that we should aware that every sin that we commit, what kind of forces do we activate when we commit that felony? So the first step is to be aware about what's wrong, and that's the word vidui, which is coming from the Hebrew word to confirm. You have to be confirmed, to confirm that you know what have you done wrong. Rabbi Ashlag is teaching us a very important concept. If you're not aware of what is wrong, how can you fix it? Or in modern language, if you don't know what's broken, how can you repair that? If you don't have if you don't have a successful diagnosis of the patient, how can you prescribe a treatment? Impossible. So if you want to fix your mistake, first of all, you have to confirm your mistake. And that's the word vehitvadu. It's not to confess, it's to confirm. Et chatatam, והשיב את אשמה בראשו. And then you have to pay for what the damage you have created. Now, that idea of teshuvah, which means when you are totally aware of what's wrong in your actions, and then you regret, and you truly regret, how do you know you truly regret? When you have another opportunity to commit the same felony, there's no way you're going to perform that felony all over again because you really change yourself. And that needs awareness, that needs acknowledgement of the mistake. You know, when a lot of people are saying, no, it's their fault, uh, this is not a way to correct. And that brings us into a very, very big article in the Zohar, which is called Ma'amar HaTeshuvah, the article of Teshuvah. And what is Teshuvah? Teshuvah wrongly is translated into repentance. However, the word in Hebrew is not so fancy. Okay? Explain repentance. Okay? What's the word is about? In Hebrew, the word is teshuvah, which means return. Very simple. What's the return? That a person is aware of what is done wrong and he is correcting it. So we'll read that in verse 19 in the Zohar of Parashat Naso. וכל מן דבר פקודי אורייתא, whoever transgress the mitzvot of the Torah, כביכול פגים לעילה, פגים לטאטא. It's like he blemished the above and the below dimensions. פגים לגמרי, and also damages himself. פגים לכל עמים. He also damages all the worlds, all the dimensions of reality. מותר לעינון מפרישי ימין, דשתי בארבע, קם חד שתיה בינו, בעל הנקבה. That reminds a famous parable about that person that was among those people who sailed in a boat. And there was a fool, that foolish person, and he started to drill in the bottom of the ship. His friend asked him, "Why are you drilling?" So the fool answered, "What do you care about me drilling? I'm drilling only under my seat." So the person asking said, "You fool, when you drill under your seat, we both are going to drown." Which means it's not just that when we hurt ourselves, we hurt and we have to bear the consequences. We hurt ourselves, we hurt others too. And that's why it says, it was like Adam, that's verse 20. Adam transgressed one mitzvah in the Torah. אדם עבר על מצווה אחת שבתורה, גרם לעצמו מיתה, because he transgressed only one mitzvah, not to eat from the tree of knowledge. He transgressed one mitzvah, he brought upon himself death, גרם לעצמו מיתה, וגרם לכל העולם פגם למעלה ופגם למטה. And he also brought blemish to the whole world above in the spiritual dimensions and below in our physical dimensions. עד שיקיים הקדוש ברוך הוא העולם כבתחילה. That sin that blemish stays till God is going to reawaken the world like it used to be before the sin. And that is the Messianic era, where it says, Bila Mavet Lanetzach, death will be swallowed up forever, which is a very important expression about Mount Sinai. Uh, that's a verse from Isaiah 25, which means the elimination of death. How do you know you truly uh, created a true teshuvah when you do not feel that death is dictating your actions? I'll skip to verse 22. רבי יצחק ורבי יהודה היו הולכים מאושה ללוד. Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda, they were walking from the city of Usha to the city of Lud. אמר רבי יצחק, נאמר דברי תורה ונלך. Rabbi Yitzchak said, let us talk about the Torah as we walk. פתח רבי יהודה ואמר, so Rabbi Yehuda opened and said, he's quoting from Parashat Mishpatim, which is about the law, the book of Exodus, chapter 25, about the law that says, in case a person will dig a hole, and then someone falls into that hole. You know, we're talking about somebody digging a hole in a public area, not in his own backyard. Okay, and somebody's donkey or ox or a child falls into that hole. What does it say after that? בעל הבור ישלם. The owner of the pit, the hole, will have to pay. ומה זה כך? And that is, of course, we know it in normal laws of damage, that if you cause somebody else's damage, that's your responsibility. You have to compensate him for the damage that you, in your recklessness, you dug a hole, you did not put rails around the hole, you did not put a signing around the hole. And then, like, who digs a hole in a public property? You want to dig a hole, dig it in your own backyard. What is it like? מי שגרם להרע לעולם בחטאיו, על אחת כמה וכמה. But that means that the Torah is hinting about it. You create a damage, not just when you dig a hole, not just when you contaminate a river or a lake or any source of water. Also, when you commit a felony and you create a cosmic, metaphysical hole that affects other people's behavior, which means when you create negativity through your actions, because we are all in the same boat. I don't know if you know this, but all more than 8 billion human beings, we are all on the same boat, which is a little speck of dust relatively to the huge width of the universe. And we all on that little speck of dust called planet Earth. When we mess up spiritually, first of all, we hurt everybody in the boat. So therefore, מי שגרם להרע לעולם בחטאיו, whoever through his sins hurt the world, made the world diminish its light, for sure he will have to pay for the damage. So if somebody made a damage like this, okay, why would teshuvah help him? I regret, I'm upset about what I've done. I really know that what I've done is so terrible. I will never ever do it again. But meanwhile, who knows how many people were hurt by that hole, the pit that I dug on the road. And the Zohar continues, verse 23, Umeshiv, he answers, Elavadai ze moilem. Of course, the teshuvah is worthy and there is a benefit for that. Because when somebody is making teshuvah, or say teshuvah, כביכול הוא עושה אותו ממש. It's like you're really creating a new reality. כי תשובה משיבה ה' על ו'. Because teshuvah, which means return, teshuvah means tashuv hey. The teshuvah returns the hey, the last hey of the tetragrammaton. So when we're talking about the tetragrammaton, each letter symbolizes another part of the tree of life. So you have Kutzor shel Yud, the thorn over the Yud. If you know how the letter Yud is written, there's like a thorn above it. That's the Keter. The Yud is Chokhmah, and the Hey is Bina. Okay, so when we do Teshuvah, we raise the letter Hey, the last Hey, and when the last Hey raises up, it unites with the Vav, and when they both rise because of my Teshuvah, because of my purification, they create a reunion of the upper worlds, Keter Chokhmah Bina, Yud, the letters Yud and Hey in the tetragrammaton, and with the Vav and Hey, which are Zer Pin Malchut. In that moment that I united, I created unity, harmony, okay, in the tree of life, the result will be the elimination of pain and damage that I generated by my own mistake, which is like somebody so too drunk to realize that you're drilling in your own boat. And when the water come up, it will drown everybody, the whole boat. That's a very important concept. So when I do teshuvah, when I realize the damage that I created, I realized it was a mistake. I realized that it was not just a physical mistake, it was also a spiritual, a global mistake, because the hurt of creating such a negativity hurts everybody, the whole world. So when a person is doing teshuvah or set teshuvah, it's like you're really doing something new. You're creating, generating something new. כי תשובה משיבה את ה' לבב, כי מה שפגם למעלה תיקן אותו. Whatever damage you brought to the universe in the spiritual dimension, you fix it. You created a repair. How? Through the teshuvah, which means the teshuvah can repair everything. What does it mean, teshuvah? A, I realize that I've done something wrong. B, I'm really upset about myself that I've done it. I'm so upset about it, so there's no way that I will ever do it again. Even though the pressure, the seduction to do it will repeat itself. So when we're saying that the teshuvah is creating a new reality, don't have doubt about it, because when we all know through modern science, in the last few years, it's getting stronger and stronger. When you think in a place of no guilt, no shame, no hatred, no uh, no dark prophecies about the future, just positivity and positivity and positivity, then the connection between the Hey and the Vav and the Yud K and the whole tree of life is manifested because we change our own frequency from selfishness, lack of awareness, into altruism and awareness of the power of our words, our speech. So that is the power of the teshuvah, because teshuvah is like creating a new transformed track of reality. The more I believe in it, the more uh, the more diverse is the transformation, which means there won't be a lot of things in common between the our state before the teshuvah or after the teshuvah. And the Zohar goes in length about that teshuvah, and the Zohar explains basically that when we do teshuvah, when we really return by giving up all the physical, mundane, limited universe, and we really ascend because of our love to our Creator, when we create the Sat Teshuvah, and every human being is capable of doing it, I'm creating a new universe. And of course, when I do that, I change the whole planet, not just my little region. So that is a very important concept. You want people to rise, to hold accountability and responsibility. You have to empower them first and raise their heads to the light. So that's about the Teshuvah. But then there's a unique idea about the story of the Teshuvah. One of the weirdest issues in the whole Torah, where it says in chapter 5, verse 11, and God speaks to Moses saying, Daber al bnei Israel, speak to the children of Israel, ואמרת להם, and you should tell them, ish ish ki tishtei. A person, there's no grammatical structure like this in English, as far as I remember, but it's a word when it says twice ish, a person, it means everyone, okay? But here it says one by one person by another. You'll see a problem that women betray their husbands. And she slept with another man, verse 13 in the Zohar. ועבר עליו רוח תקינה, and then the husband that was betrayed feels a spirit of uh, zeal. And he believes that she became impure because she betrayed him. What did it say? He should bring the woman, his wife, to the high priest. Then he should bring an offering. And then there's a special small offering he should bring as an offering in front of God. Verse 17, ולקח הכהן מים קדושים, and the Kohen will take holy water, בכלי חרס, in a jar of clay, ומן העפר שיהיה בקרקע המשכן, ייקח הכהן ונתן על המים. Then the high priest will take from the soil in the Mishkan, from the ground, make from it a tincture, and then add that tincture to uh, the uh, how does it say? Take water, holy water, in a clay pot, add from the soil in the Mishkan, okay, and after he does that, put inside holy water, okay, and then this is really weird, and then the Kohen should stand in front of the woman. He should uh, remove her head cover and make her hair disorganized. And then you should give her the water to drink. And he should make her swear that she is innocent. Now, if the woman really betrayed, she will swell up, get really sick, and maybe even die. But everybody will see her swelling. If she did not betray, she will get pregnant and give birth to a baby boy. Okay? So, is it about the reputation? What is it about? What's important is that because since that we don't have a temple, so since the destruction of the temple, this custom is not being held. Since, however, there's a very powerful, very long um, article in the Zohar about it. After the article of the Tshuva, you have the article of the Sotah, what we just spoke about the woman that her husband suspects her that she betrays him. So the Zohar says as follows. First of all, why does this law of the Sotah, why is it adjacent to the law of the Teshuvah, the person who committed the felony, and now he has to make Teshuvah? And the answer is it's the same thing, by the way, it's the same exact thing. That's why they're being read one after another. However, the Zohar is saying two things. The first thing is, if you really suspect that your wife is betraying you, you should ask yourself, why did it happen to you? Because if you never laid eyes on somebody else's wife, why would that happen to you? Which means you have to take immediately responsibility instead of running around looking for who to blame. Which is really basically talking about the covenant. The covenant on Mount Sinai is about responsibility, freedom through responsibility, which means I'm never going to run around blaming, creating dependency. I'm always going to take responsibility to find where is it that I'm drilling the hole. Now, humanity is reaching slowly to that idea. The fact that we are aware to the idea of the Torah that if you pollute a river, if you pollute the air, if you pollute the soil, and that spreads also to the neighbors, you have to pay the consequences. Either you pay physically money to compensate the people who were hurt, or next lifetime, You'll run around like crazy trying to fix all the damages down the river, let's say. Okay? Today, we are more aware of that idea of globalization, pollution, the fact that, one person in one corner of the earth can do something really bad and everybody else is going to feel the effect. So here what the Zohar is saying, it applies not only on the physical plane for what we know about people. Let's say, all of these people in company that uh, pollute the earth that we grow our food in, the water that we get our fish and seafood from, or even drinking water from, or the air that we're breathing from. Okay, all of that, somebody pollutes that and we get hurt, that somebody must pay. And that could take lifetimes till you pay it. First of all, if you're aware of it, you're aware that whatever is broken can be fixed. That's a very important idea that the Zohar is saying. And now, so what is the story about the Sota? And the Zohar is saying something very important. When humanity is coming to the last chapter of this journey of Tikkun, it's going to be so tough, so stressful. And as the Zohar is saying, כעין זה יעשה לנסות ישראל בגאולה האחרונה. Verse 89. On the same token, the nation of Israel will be tested. The word test, לנסות, means to be tested, but it means also to be forced into creating miracles. What is a miracle? That it says, this is a quote from just a second. Okay, that's from the book of Daniel, but the prophecies about redemption, chapter 12, verse 10. About many people will be cleansed, bleached, and purified. התבררו והתלבנו והצטרפו רבים. Which means there's going to be a process in the before the Messianic era, a process of bleaching, purification, cleansing. And that process will happen again, will happen during the just the period that is before the Messianic era, which we are in that period, according to the dates the Zohar is giving, and that will be exactly like the Sota, which means people will have to get into, because of the really big pressure, where can you cleanse and purify gold and silver? In the iron furnace. Egypt is being referred to by the Torah as the iron furnace. So the same way the Israelites had to be purified. So otherwise, was it, asking Rabbi Ashlag, that only the nation of Israel stood on Mount Sinai? From God's point of view, he gave the Torah for all 70 nations. The only ones who came to that meeting were the Israelites. And he explains they went through a very intense purification that took few centuries because they were under the slavery in Egypt, the torturing, the killing, the hard labor, all of the suffering that they went for centuries, cleansed them, purified them, bleached their souls. Therefore, when they left Egypt, they were the only ones who were able, says Rabbi Ashlag, to get the idea of responsibility, the idea of being aware that we are all created in the image of God. Therefore, we all have to take responsibility for the damage we inflicted upon ourselves and upon all of humanity. And because of that, the only ones that are purified enough to be able to accept the idea of love others as you love yourself indiscriminately, which means that idea, the acceptance of this idea, guaranteed Mount Sinai revelation. We are going to face another revelation. Now, thanks to the idea of the purification that all of humanity is going through, basically everybody will have to take part of it. Meanwhile, it will be like the sota. Either somebody does the purification and transformation and the teshuvah, then all the pressure cooker that is called humanity today, with all the intense happenings of politics, economy, and so on, precious and precious, but the word is nisayon. Nisayon means a test, but it also means in Hebrew an opportunity for making a miracle, from the word nes. So either you do tshuva, you repent, you transform, you take responsibility for the damage you inflicted upon yourself and the rest of humanity, and then you can earn freedom like never experienced before, or you have to go through the slow, painful process of cleansing, which will be horrifying because of the uncertainty, because of the lack of clarity, because of the confusion, because if you don't have the tools of the Zohar, you'll be scared, threatened, and out of your mind. And therefore, the Zohar continues that Moses, he's the one who is quoted talking about it to Rabbi Shimon. And he says another verse from the book of Daniel, all those people that will shine like the splendor of the heavens. That is from the book of Daniel 12 also. And that's why the word Zohar is coming from that verse. And he says, with that book of yours, the Zohar, which is the secret of Teshuvah, return, those people who are really attaching themselves to the Zohar, they don't need the test. They will taste the taste of the tree of life, which is the Zohar, and they will go through the transformation from exile to redemption in mercy. All the rest, will have to go through a very painful process of cleansing and purification and bleaching of the soul. And we can see that through the confusion. And you know what? When people are confused, when people are scared, they tend, first of all, to look who to blame. People who hate, terribly hate others, they are the ones who suffer the most. And the Zohar is asking, who needs mercy? The righteous? No, they're okay. The non-righteous people, those people are wicked. Those people are not willing to accept the yoke of basically we here to perform our tikkun and to serve the purpose of our creation, revealing light. We taking responsibility for the laws of the universe. If you're not ready to take that yoke upon yourself, you'll be suffering through the confusion. You think you know what's right, and why are you bitter, scared, hateful, and dangerous? Because dangerous animals, scared animals without awareness are very dangerous. The same thing over here. Now, if the woman, why is it connected to the sotah? Because the sotah in the Torah, the high priest will take pure water, as we said before, give her to drink. And if she really betrayed her husband, she will swell and be a joke and she will die. But if she did not betray, she will prosper. She will even carry a child, fruits. And that's what the Zohar is saying. Whoever betrayed it will be shown. The sin will be shown. They will have a very, very painful life. Whoever does accept the teshuvah will have a much, much better life. We have in this parasha also the blessing of the Kohanim. We have also the offerings of the chieftains of the tribes, which is very, very important, as the Zohar is saying, because that was made then in the desert with a purpose. When the era of the Messianic era will come, the Zohar says Ishmael, you can find it in the end, Parashat Naso, verse 198. It says the nations of Ishmael will try to take over the whole world. And somehow the offerings of the 12 chieftains of the tribes, the 12 heads of the tribes, Nesi'im, Nasi from Naso, the ones raised above, that was made in order to create a kind of unity in the world that will be kind of a protective shield that the global jihad won't take over the world. This is the Zohar 2,000 years ago. Okay. Thank you all. And remember also the blessing of the Kohanim. Chesed is also the greatest tool of creating protection. That's one of them, a little bit from all the secrets of Parashat Naso. Thank you very much. Have a great month of revelation, Mount Sinai revelation for all of us, so we can really experience true freedom.
Amen. תודה רבה הרב.